Life is about collecting memories, moments, experiences, and treasure. What will you be collecting next? Join us on Collector Quests. I shoot from my studio, so I was painting Spider-Man,
Oh, nice.
which was a fun couple minutes there. So, how are you doing? Thank you so much for taking the time and joining us today.
I'm doing great. I do appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, no, this is great. I have so many questions. Uh, for you, but I always want to just kind of go back to the beginning because it looked like you discovered artistry and comics at a very young age, based on some of the stuff that I was reading about you. Tell me a little bit about how that entered your world as a young person.
I guess initially I found comic books like just like at a 7-Eleven or Quick Stop or whatever those are. And they were on the spinner racks and stuff. And just as a little kid, I didn't understand the concept. I knew that they were books. I didn't understand that they would go from one story to the next type thing. And I didn't understand the numbering, like what's going on here. And this is pretty young, but I remember buying my first comic book was an Avengers. I can't remember what number it was, but
Wow.
on the cover, it just captivated me. It was Thor, but in his human form, and he was like bringing to life like all the other Avengers, like bringing them back like they had just got all killed. And so he's the doctor version of himself. He didn't need to be Thor to do this. He needed to be a doctor to bring them all back. And I was like, oh, this is amazing. And that was the first comic book that I actually purchased with my own money. And then after that, some years later, a friend of mine had X-Men by John Byrne and Chris Claremont. And I just was like amazed by it. I was like, oh, I want to do this. This is the artwork was just so stunning, still is, I love it. And I was like, well, there's probably just one guy that does comic books. He does like Casper, he does X-Men, Spider-Man, everything, Superman. And boy, he's probably getting old, and probably somebody's going to need to take over. Maybe I could do that. I'll be the guy who takes over. So I started drawing stuff. Then I started learning, oh, it's not one guy who has a bunch of different styles, it's a bunch of different people. So that was like my I guess my entrance into it.
Wow. That's really interesting that you had the drive to take on the world of comics. That's a
Right.
pretty big chair to sit in,
Right.
Like you didn't even think twice about it. So maybe you truly always probably did have it in your heart, because you were willing
Yeah.
to take on the biggest job of all time.
Yeah.
Uh, that's interesting. Do you go back to those comics that once inspired you to re-inspire you now when you are
Oh
going
yeah.
through these projects and sets and stuff like that?
Yeah, definitely. I still love John Byrne's X-Men. Um, and I've even grown to appreciate uh, some of the other artists that I didn't at first, like, I hate to admit it, but Jack Kirby and Steve Ditko, when I first became a collector and I started like buying, it was with X-Men. And I was like, religiously buying everything. I didn't care for Jack Kirby and Steve Ditko. And they just like I would look at Ditko's work and it would make me feel inside. Well, now, I love it. I can see why people say that they were the greats. And yeah, I go back and I look at stuff and I get inspiration and even techniques, things like that. Yeah.
Yeah, because and there's so much to dive into, but as far as technique goes, looking at when you were first creating, when you entered the industry until now, I mean, even as a seasoned artist, that has to change even in small increments, right? As you're seeking new styles and new ways of presenting these characters.
Yeah, it does. Well, when I started realizing, oh, there's different artists and things like that, I really clung to like certain ones, and one of them in particular was Arthur Adams, and I lived in California, and he's also in California, and I would go to like a lot of comic book conventions, and he would be there, and my friends would go off into uh, back in those days, at least the ones that we went to, the comic book conventions, they would separate the artists. They would like you could see them for free. You didn't have to pay to get in. I think it was a creation con is what they were. Um, and the dealer room where all the comic books were, you had to pay to get in there. Well, I didn't care about all that. I wanted to talk to the artist and watch them and see them do stuff. So I would hang out like all day long with like Arthur Adams, Mike Mignola. Just as a kid, I was just a kid, and I don't even know if they remember. I mean, they might remember me, but they don't like maybe know my name. They were always very nice to me, and I would just sit there and watch them, show them my artwork. And I wanted to be like Arthur Adams. I thought this guy, his artwork is just amazing. Um, and this was even before uh, he got his first gig, like with Long Shot. I was at the Creation Con actually, where him and Mike Mignola got their first gigs. Like he Arthur Adams got Long Shot, and Mike Mignola got Rocket Raccoon, the miniseries. And after that, they just exploded and took off. But
Yeah, that's fascinating for so many reasons because today, with the internet in the palm of our hand, you can access. I was able to reach out to you and say,
yep.
"Hey, I want to do an interview." But when you were back then, when you were a kid, you were either hitting the comic book store, the
Mhm.
7-Eleven rack. If you were fortunate enough to get in front of those artists and even recognize who they were and what they were doing, that must have been such an incredible experience to even see the gig happen. Like, oh wow, they got it. Like, oh, did
Right.
you associate the hard work aspect with it? Meaning, like, I wonder what it took for those guys to get to that point. Like, what clicked with you when you saw that particular moment?
I think that I mean, I didn't actually see the moment, like, but I talked with, it was Tom DeFalco was, I think, one of the editors. Maybe he was the editor in chief at Marvel at the time. I'm not sure. And I was so young. And I talked with him. He gave me a business card. Another friend of mine got a business card. And then he said, "Yeah, these two guys, they just got jobs." And I'm like, "What two guys?" He goes, "Yeah, they're really good. Go over there and look." And I went over, and that's when I actually saw that. I looked through their work,
Oh,
and I was like,
cool.
"These guys are amazing." So I didn't see the actual getting of
Yeah.
the job, but I was at the convention or the show. And then the next show we went to, I don't know if it was, I don't even know when it was. Was it months later? Was it a year later? I can't remember. But he had pages. They had pages of their work, and I was like, man, they got the job and they jumped on it. They were like working. And then I got to see them, like with Mike Mignola's stuff. I know this isn't supposed to be about them, but these guys are so amazing. Um, I saw his thumbnails that he did we were at I think it was a San Diego Comic Con, and he broke out his thumbnails to show either the editor or the writer, I don't know. His thumbnails were so good that they could have been printed. Like they could have said, "Okay, let's letter these and color them. We're done." They were so good. So, anyways, yeah.
How big were the thumbnails that you're referring to? Were they like baseball card size, or was it actual panel, like a comic book panel page?
They would do. Oh, at least he did it like on a typing page, 8.5 by 11,
Yep.
and then I guess he would take that and blow it up onto 11 by 17 or something.
Yeah, that's really cool. And then you mentioned that you had shown your work at a young age at those spaces.
Yes.
Was everybody very supportive? Do you ever receive any constructive criticism that you didn't take lightly, or were you always just interested in getting better even at that young age?
Everybody was very nice. Like I would show my work to everybody, like Steve Rude, um, Klaus Janson, Frank Miller, anybody. The one person who it was strange to me, who kind of shot me down, which was fine, and it was Terry Austin, who was the inker of John Byrne. I never got to meet John Byrne, but Terry Austin, he shot me down. He said, all the opposite things that everybody else said, he said the opposite. And it was like, you know what? He's probably being honest. Everybody else is being nice. So, yeah, I just went and I would try to work harder and work on the things that they would say.
Now, did you have support from your family? Because it sounded like you were in some really, really cool places with some very important people in the comic industry. It's almost like growing up in Chicago and seeing Michael Jordan play on the weekends. Like you were just around this greatness that was there, and it seems like you recognized it. What was your support system like when you were younger?
Um, well, my mom raised my sister and I alone. And I was pretty much, she was just like, yeah, go do whatever you want. And I had friends that had vehicles. I didn't have a car. And I was probably, well, I guess you could get a car at that age, but anyways, not me. Um, and so I would just tag along with my friends. They had a way to get to these different conventions that were too far away. And my mom was pretty cool about it. She's like, yeah, go do whatever you want to do, stay out of trouble. And, but the support was that way. And but my mom was very practical. She would say, Gary, there's a reason why there's the term starving artist. It's because they starve. And she said, if you want to be an artist, you're probably going to starve. And I was like, Mom, I got to do this. She said, well, you can do it, but you got to do it after your job type of thing. You need to go get regular work and do it on, at night afterwards, whenever you want. And I've been very blessed to be able to do it to the level that I have done it. I'm able to get by, everything's fine. And it's a blessing.
So did you go get a job? It's so funny because this is a common occurrence among a lot of the interviews that I've been holding, and uh, it's a major stigma that had to be jumped over, this hurdle of even I always bring up the Hollywood version. Whenever there's a family in Hollywood in a movie, this whatever sibling is the artist is like the loser, and like the one who's not gonna make it, right? And like,
Right,
oh, that's just Billy, he's always in his room, you know.
right.
But really, there's this other, like, just the first 10 minutes of you speaking, there's this amazing fireworks show of passion and desire to create and make something for the world to behold and to inspire generations. And it's really an incredible industry and to be in. And so it sounds like I read that you were self-taught. So that combined with that drive, how did you stay disciplined to always try and better your craft as you moved along, as kind of holding yourself accountable?
Well, it could be just the way that, like, I guess the cards that have been dealt me. Like, I have a a problem with like dyslexia,
Hmm.
so I've always had to kind of compensate for that. Like, so I have to pay attention to things because it's going to be more difficult if I have to go read it. And I bumble through things, so like that's probably why I didn't catch the time or
That's
something.
okay. Yeah, it's totally okay.
But even like to this day, like I write my own comics as well. I have to have my wife, who's brilliant at like editing and spelling, all of that. She's so good. Um, and so she helps me tremendously. But and she'll even like look at what are you saying here? This doesn't make any sense. And then I'll have to, tell her. And then she's like, oh, okay, yeah, let's say it this way. And let's use words.
So if you don't mind me touching on that for a minute, because I think that's really important in case there's a young artist who is also encountering the same challenge. Does dyslexia, your particular case, does that influence how you draw, or is it more on the storyboard side?
I'm not sure if I understand the question fully.
Yeah, like
Uh,
does it impact you when you're sketching, or or impact your process while you're sketching, or is it more of like when you're writing the actual storyline to the book that you're writing?
I think that it impacts, mostly it's with spelling and things like that.
Hmm.
Because I feel like I can articulate, verbally and things like that. Okay. But when it comes to the actual putting words together and making sure that those letters actually make those words,
Yeah,
it gets a little messed up. But I do think that that's helped me to focus more on things like explaining something visually. Like if I
mhm,
had to draw a picture, I could draw that a lot better than write it.
right.
And so whenever I'm writing a story, it's all visual. The words will come later. but sometimes like I've written a whole comic book with no words, and then I have to go back in, and I knew what they were gonna be saying generally, and then it kind of takes on a life of its own too. Um, but I think what it's done is it's made me focus more on the visual side of things. Like, how do you express this scene or an emotion with no words? How do you do that? You know,
I think it's amazing, and yeah, you probably really have an incredible focus on the character's facial emotion or body language
right.
that help tell the story along the way. And I interviewed Ryan Finley yesterday, and he's a teacher, and he has his students as part of their workshop write a comic panel with no words and like
Mm.
pushes them into that space to draw the emotion out of the characters without saying anything. And I think that's really cool too, you know. And let's talk about your book for a second. All right, now, you had a publication from when you were younger, over 30 years ago. Is that Packins Land? Is that where that
Yes.
came from? Can you start off just tell me a little bit about that book?
Okay. So basically, what happened is I was trying to break into comic books, like in the main, like Marvel, DC area, and it was around the time Image had launched, but I wasn't really interested in Image. Um, and my love with the actual creation of comic books was starting to wane. Dark Knight had come out, Watchmen, all of these really great books, and it seemed like everything that was coming out now at that time was just subpar. And it was like, what is going on? It's like the industry's dying.
Hmm.
And it's like, do something good, somebody. And like the greatest, I mean, I don't want to step on anybody's toes, but like they were doing like Secret Wars. And I'm like, what is going on now? If everybody loves Secret Wars, love it. Go ahead. Because there's some stuff that I love that probably is ridiculous. But I just was falling out of love of it. And then I did one more tryout kind of thing. I did some Batman pages in pencil. I wanted to be a penciler, and I went to San Diego, and I was with my wife. We were newly married, and I said, "This is it. If I go, I'm going to show my work one more time. If they don't hire me, then I'm done."
Hmm.
And so I went to San Diego, talked to different people, and they were trying to get me with, oh, you could go get a job at Dark Horse, and you could go over here, they're looking for the, like, yeah, you'd be in. And I'm like, no, it has to be Marvel or DC. Very narrow minded at the time, and probably still am. Uh but I could have got a job as a colorist. Like Klaus Janson said, I could give you a job right now as a colorist. And I was like, no, I want to be a penciler. And he's like, okay, well, good luck. He was a very nice guy. um but anyways, I quit for like 10 years. And I
Wow.
said, no, I'm done. I'm going to go work somewhere else as an artist. And I did for 10 years. And then a friend of mine owned a comic book store, still had all my old friends. And he said, hey, Gary, read this. And I go, well, I don't want to. The comic books are dumb. They're terrible. I don't want to read them. He goes, well, just read this one. And it was Bone. And I read it. I was like, wow, this is really good. And I said, yeah, but it's black and white. Who cares? No one's buying this. And he said, no, people are buying. It's good. People like it. I go, if that's true, then I got a story. And then I came up with Packins Land, and it was inspired because of what Jeff Smith did. He did something. He did it on his own. It's all him. It's black and white, and I was like, I can do that. And so I did. I had to learn, obviously, a lot of things about writing a story, about being better with inking, things like that. And but that was the catalyst, I guess, after
Yeah,
I dropped out for 10 years.
yeah, I'm so curious because you had so much drive. What was it about going into that Comic-Con with those penciled pages that you were like, that's it. This is like it's this or nothing
Right.
versus being like, I'll hit the drawing board again if I don't get this one. What was it about going on in your life at that time that was like the do or die moment, you know?
Well, a lot had happened. Like I had met my wife, we got married, I had become a Christian, um, and it just felt like the comic book industry was going in it, and it was in that direction all along. It's just that I didn't care. It's just like it's very, that way. And it just didn't promote the kind of values, I guess, that I was wanting to go for
Hmm.
anymore. And so I just kind of lost interest in it. And I don't collect now. I create now,
Yeah.
and I love the medium. I love creating, telling stories, and I love it that there is an audience out there that is more open minded than I was as a collector when I was younger. That they want a good story. It doesn't have to be Spider-Man or Batman or Wolverine or whatever. There are those, yes, but they're open to things like something like Bone or something like that, and it doesn't have to be just superhero. Although I love superheroes,
Of course. Can you just give us a quick summary of Packens Land for anybody listening who doesn't have any
Sure.
experience with it?
It's a story of uh, a world that's in another dimension where the animals are intelligent and they have their adventures going on already, like right from the very beginning. A boy from the human world named Paul goes into Packens Land. He finds a cave that sends him through into this other dimension, so to speak, and he's lost there. And so his journey is, well, on one hand, I got to get back home. The other is, how can I help you guys? And they're wanting to help him, vice versa. And then it's a good versus evil, light versus dark kind of situation. And from that, Packensland, which was, I think I did 18 issues, um, and it was published through Caliber Press years ago in the 90s. It was nominated for a Russ Manning, a Harvey, and another one. I can't remember. It was only nominated though, but such an honor,
It's
such
great.
an honor
Yeah.
to even be recognized at all as somebody who just like out of the gate, I just did this thing, and then they were like, "This is good." Yeah, that was great.
So,
Um,
so Packens Land came before you took the 10-year break.
no, that was what I when I came back.
That's when you came back.
Yeah,
Okay.
I came back with Packens Land, and I was like, let's see. And I was always thinking, I'm gonna print these like out of my
Sure.
garage type
Yeah, yeah,
thing, and
yeah.
I'm
Fold them in
gonna
half.
sell them like little ash cans or whatever. And then we went to San Diego again. I never, I guess, lost touch with comic books, but I said I'm not gonna do it. We went somewhere and we're having a meeting with somebody at one of the tables. We had a meeting separately, but then we went to their table, and then behind them there was a Caliber Press had a table, and I guess the his name is Jim Pruitt. I don't know what he was at the time. Like he was up there with the publishing. Like he wasn't the publisher, but he was maybe the one who made the decisions about stuff. And I guess he overheard, and then someone that was with us went over and was talking with him, and then he was like giving them comic books and stuff. And then he said, tell them to come over here when they're done talking. And then they said, this guy wants to talk to you. So I talked to him and he looked at what I had. He goes, we want to publish your stuff.
Hmm.
I'm like, really? He's like, yeah. I go, I never thought anybody would want to really publish it. He's all, no, we want to do this. And then they did like a spinoff of Caliber, which was called Tapestry. This was all back in like 95, 96.
Yeah.
Um, and they published most of the stuff, and then I did publish once everything kind of ended with them. um, I went to Image and I published one issue of Packens Land through Image, and then I talked with uh, the person that I was dealing with there, and they said, we can keep doing this if you want to, but just know this is how we work. We're in the business of making our money first
Yeah.
and then your money next. And so at this point, it's up to you. Do you feel like it's worth it? Is it not worth it? And I decided it's not worth it because
Mhm.
there's so many things that you have to do to fit in with a publisher.
Sure.
And so that was that.
So then you've come out of a mini retirement of sorts. You publish this great story. And then tell me a little bit about Titan. Is it Titan Mouse or Titan the
Titan Mouse of Might is what it's called. Yeah. And
is that your story? Did you create that?
yes, yes.
Okay.
So basically, he comes. from the world of Packens Land. So it's sort of
Okay.
like the reverse of Packens Land, the
Yeah, the boy
story.
like the boy went there and now
Yeah.
Titan's coming here.
So Titan comes here type thing. And that's what that is. And I'm working on issue number 10 right now.
I saw that. Yeah, you did a little re-release digitally of 1 through 9, and now
Yeah.
you're doing an official release. Now that happened this summer, the soft release, or is it coming up?
No, I'm still working on 10.
Oh, okay.
So
All right. Good. So we
I
didn't miss
I
it.
did
It's
a
great.
crowdfunder for it. It's still up on
Yep.
Kickstarter right now. And I'm like in the middle. Like I'm halfway done with
Okay.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll definitely go on there and support that. I think that looks awesome. Now that the character, I love the costume, and it's very superhero reminiscent
Yeah.
of, and I was just curious to dive into the personality. And my son loves reading comics. I laid in bed last night. I have a 10-year-old, and he like looks over my shoulder while I'm reading, and he does, he's getting into his own choose your adventure books. Do you remember those books where you can read through the pages
And
and
then you could choose something. Yeah.
choose
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
you want to go? So he's
Right.
he's been doing a lot more reading there, and so I'll go on and get us a copy of the tenth release, and I'll share it with Roman when you release it. Um,
Okay, great.
can you tell me a little bit about your process, like when it comes to use Titan, for example, like. Is this character been living with you for a while, and then you're ready to start beginning to tell its story? And then when does the pencil hit the paper for you to begin visually telling that story?
Um, okay, so I had an idea for a mouse adventure way back when I did Packens Line when I first started. So like 25, 30 years ago. Because like the one of the first pages in of the Packens Land story, there's a character, all you see is their arm mostly, and they're reaching on a bookshelf to pull off the book Packens Land to read it. But next to it are other titles, and one of them is Mouse of Might. So it
Hmm.
was just an idea, like just the germ of an idea. And then I was on another person's live stream where they do a drawing competition thing. It's just for fun with pros and stuff. And they wanted to draw it was a certain topic, and you have like an hour or something or 2 hours to draw something. I didn't want to do it, and I was just being, funny. So I just drew like this mouse with a like a Batman attitude, and they loved it, and they're like, Gary, you got to do this, because I was going to start Packens Land up again because I
Mhm.
hadn't done it for so long, and that was kind of where I was at. I was like, well, I'm going to start, and I had new pages for Packens Land already worked out and stuff, but then they said, no, stop with Packens Land, do this mouse. And I said, well, I did have a mouse idea, and so I kind of married the two together, and that's where he came from. So he's sort of like a mixture of Batman, Wolverine, and Superman, even.
Yeah, I love it. I thought it was so cool. I was just kind of getting brushed up on it on your social media and looking through it. And so talk to me about creating live. How often do you do that? And is it something like I've created live painting live before, and it's
Yeah,
very nerve-wracking. The what I do is very different from what you do live, but
right.
it's still there's like very little margin for error when you're inking live or creating live. Like, tell me a little bit about what that's like for you, and where do you like to do it when you do decide to give into it?
I do it like a lot,
Hmm.
like almost every day.
Oh, wow.
Not every day, uh, but a lot because I draw a lot, and it's like just turn the camera on, just draw.
Sure.
And so either I used to do it a lot on YouTube.
Okay.
Now I do it on Whatnot. It seems
Okay.
like the crowd has shifted over that direction.
They
And
do.
I'll
Yeah.
just sit there and draw. People will even in the chat say, "Hey, draw this character or draw that one." And so then I will, and we'll just have fun with it. And then sometimes I'll bring some Titan pages over, and I'll just be working on that. And then people are just sitting there. It gets quiet, and I'll look into the chat, and I was like, is anybody here? And they're like, yeah, we're here. Just keep going. This is all good.
That's cool. My son and I have jumped into a couple rooms after doing some of these interviews again, just like yourself. Some of the artists are doing it, so we'll definitely check out one of your live streams. I'll bring Roman in
Oh,
to take
sweet.
a look. So when did you get approached to enter the sketch card industry? And before you answer that, tell me about when the first time you ever heard about a sketch card was.
Wow. Um, it's got to go back. Uh, I would say at least to 2006.
Hmm.
The only reason why I know that is because I was looking through one of my sketchbooks and I saw the date, and it was just last night because some people were asking questions on a live stream, and I was flipping through an old sketchbook. I was like, "Wow, this was a long time ago." So I would say like 2006 ish, and I was approached by Cryptozoic,
Yeah.
I believe, and then I worked with them for a while on just whatever, DC stuff. I think it was DC Adventure Time, all kinds of stuff. And then they kind of dried up. I don't know if they're still around. I'm assuming they still are, but they just stopped calling. And then Upper Deck contacted me, and I just all the different things that they do. They I guess they get the license of whatever it is, and then they ask, hey, do you want to work on this? How many cards you want to do? Things like that. So I worked with them for quite a while, and I still am working with them. It's just that it went dormant for a while. As soon as it went dormant with them, then Tops contacted me and they're like, "Hey, you want to work on these?" I'm like, "Sure." And so I've worked on like so many different properties and stuff. It's been amazing.
Yeah, I didn't know what a sketch card was until this year. When
Oh,
I pulled a Rich Henneman Juggernaut out of the X-Men 97 series, and
yeah, I worked on that.
I was blown away. Yeah, that's how I know you. I have one of your cards right here.
Oh, sweet. Oh yeah. Images. Nice.
So that's how I met you. And so I was just blown away because I'm an artist and I curate a gallery here in the Hudson Valley. And I'm also a huge comic fan. Every single night I'm reading books in bed. It's like my way of escaping the world. And
Right.
uh, so when I saw that there was art involved in the merchandise, like in the collectible, I started digging in and diving in, and then I wanted to meet the artists and just learn more about this. And so I did a lot of research and started looking at sets that have been released and historically some of the artwork and styles and stuff like that. But there was something really special about this set. It looked like the level was stepped up a little bit almost when I was coming across the art and the artist. And was there something about this set that sparked with you or resonated with you? Because I feel like everybody went in 1,000% on this. The artwork's magical across the board. It's really, really cool. And your style, you approached in a black and white style
Right.
for it looked like a lot of the work. So tell me a little bit about what you think about the impression of this set and then why you chose to go black and white.
Um, well, I think that I can uh, convey whatever message that I want to convey in black and white
Hmm.
uh, stronger than color. I mean, I do color, um, but I think that some of my strongest work is black and white, and I love that. That was the thing about comic books that I loved. When I and drawing and stuff. I loved seeing like the black and white artwork that people would do, and that was the thing that it just sang to me. And so I love black and white, but I do understand that people, not everybody has that same taste, and so you need to put color, too, because people like that as well. But yeah, and I think that the X-Men 97 set, if that's what you're referring to,
Yeah.
uh, that was, I think, the first set that I did for Tops. Like I had never worked for them before, and I thought, oh, this is awesome, a new opportunity. I'm just gonna I'm gonna go all in, whether or not. And there's also an approval process. Like it has to, you can't just draw anything. You have to draw what they say, not the poses and things, but the characters. Like you can't draw a character that's in a certain whatever. Like you can't do the movie version of
Right.
Wolverine, but do the comic book version, or you can't do the animated version. You have to do a comic book version, um, and then it has to be approved. And so there's that bar that you have to reach, and so it's best to go all in, and like I'm going to do the best job I can. It's just a good practice, just do the best job you can, no matter if it's a good paying job or a bad paying job or a non-paying job. Do the best you can, and just let the results land where they will. But that was mostly it. I think I was really excited about working with Tops and also loved X-Men. That was what really got me into comic books and art to begin with, and it's just cool.
Yeah, I think that that sentiment is shared across the board. When Topps acquired that license, to work with Marvel, this was a fresh start for them as a company, probably too. And there was only 24 artists on the roster, creating sketch cards for that set. So I felt like it was very specific and who was putting work out there. And when I first started doing research, I found you actually before I even had one of your cards, and I just
Oh,
fell in love with you did a Cyclops that was mostly a dark shadow except for the visor. And it was like
okay.
a little light in the background. And you probably do so many cards, it's hard to recall the ones that are all out there. But when I saw that, I was like, wow, I was like, he just did a really incredible job with a simplistic portrayal of this character in a very specific kind of light or dark, like it was
Yeah.
this beautiful use of shadow and in it. So I really resonated with your style in that set, and like you had a great juggernaut that I saw. And a lot of these, if you're not pulling it out of a pack, you're on the world marketplace or on whatnot. And so, how do you feel? Because a lot of these cards are setting records for sketch card prices being sold on the open market, thousands of dollars,
Yeah.
for these cards. What is that experience for you like seeing your artwork reach those values?
Well, I think it's wonderful that someone would see that kind of value in something that I worked on. But I mostly think of it like this is X-Men 97 and people love that. It isn't me, because I'm not getting those kinds of sales on my end. But it's wonderful to see that like someone put me and that together and that equaled this much money for them to put out of their pocket. It's pretty amazing.
Do you do commissions? Like, so when a set like this comes out and I do learn about you, part of this project also is to try and drive the community directly to the artists
Yeah.
so that you can benefit financially and popularity wise, with the community seeking out sketch card art. So that's part of why I'm doing this interview series. Like your art is going to be in my art gallery in July, and it'll be framed, and then there'll be a little QR code. That'll go to your interview. So if people like your art, the kids can scan it and learn about the artist's journey and things of that nature. So a big push here is to get people to go directly to the artists and get artwork that's there. Like, so how do you do commissions? Are you open to that, scheduling wise?
Actually, I have some cards that I do. Like people will come on my stream and they'll just say, draw something. I don't know how well these would show up, but this is just
Oh, cool.
and these are my own particular like sketch cards, like that.
I love it. I love it. And maybe you can send me a still shot of some of these and I can cut it into the video. Oh, that's a great
Sure.
one. The SpongeBob, the Doodle Bob.
Yeah. Yeah. I worked on that set and people are always saying, do Doodle Bob.
Is that a
I'm like,
Ninja
okay.
Turtle? Yeah, it's
Only,
Raphael, right? Is that Raphael
yeah,
the Ninja Turtle?
I only did it as a request, not like I've never worked on any Ninja Turtle stuff.
Ooh, I like that Batman. That's really, really cool.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
it's interesting. The more that you get into your artwork, I agree with you in your strength in black and white, and that's a great Daredevil. Um, yeah, it's really cool. Now, when you look at a sketch card that you did in 2006 and hold up one of your cards now, what's changed?
Hmm. I don't know. I think that I've gotten, better, obviously, but I don't know if a lot has changed. I think that I've learned some new techniques. I've learned to try to make things my own instead of being just like a copy of something. I think that's
Hmm.
something that I've learned, and that's been a long time coming. Because you as a young person, I'm not a young person anymore, but uh, you want to emulate the people that you like. And I think that it's good to have people, obviously, Like, I think Frank Miller, his artwork, his storytelling, brilliant. And I've really leaned into him to learn things. Um, but I think that it's a good thing to make it your own, to don't just do, the concept it has been a long time coming for me. Like some people would say, like, yeah, but do your thing, and I'm like, I don't know what you mean. I don't know what that means. I just see what they did and I want to do it. But I'm getting it now. It's like, make it your own.
Yeah.
Change, take the technique or take the whatever this is how they drew a hand or whatever, but make it your own. So I've learned that more.
That's really great. And that's good perspective for kids to have too while they're creating that if they can't make something exact, they don't have to. They can make it the way that they make it. And the
Right,
world's a more interesting place with 50 different kinds of Wolverine, you know,
right, right.
and to see that. And so at some point you released a book published of with your artwork in it, right? Was it your sketch card artwork or was it
Uh,
paintings? What was this
yeah, I've
book that you
done quite a
released?
few sketchbooks. Let's see what we got on the shelf. I got a bunch here. So yeah, this is the first one that I did.
Oh, cool.
I can't really see myself on the
Yeah, you're
screen.
good. Yeah, that's a good shot.
So that was the first one. That was like 2013, and it's called a sketchbook, but there's like full on paintings in this. And here's one from 18.
Wow. Now, what was it that made you decide to start doing that? Did you personally like hit a certain point and a certain body of work where you're like, hey, I'm ready to release this? And how does it work when you're releasing a sketchbook like that and it's got characters from other franchises like they don't care that you do that?
Yeah, I think that well, with me, the body of work that I have is immense. I've done so many drawings that it staggers my imagination. Like I've
Uh-huh.
done thousands, literally thousands of drawings of Batman or Spider-Man. And I try to scan everything or take a picture and have a record of it.
Yeah,
And after building all that up over the years, it's like, oh my goodness, what am I going to do with all this? Put it in a sketchbook, you know. And I talked with other professionals that I know, and I said, is this okay to do this? And they said, yeah, it's fine.
yeah,
You're not all you're doing is you're showcasing your work,
yeah,
and it's only meant as a retrospection type
yeah,
thing,
yeah,
just to show it's fine. And so, put in there in the copyright, like all this stuff belongs to everybody else. And it's just my artistic, take on it. And so there hasn't been a problem that way now. Uh, I think all of the companies are very gracious,
yeah,
because you can go to comic book conventions and people are drawing their characters, and even people that work for those companies are coming up and buying pieces. And
sure.
that's it used to be how you would get a job, is at a
Yeah.
comic book convention, drawing their characters and things like that.
Yeah.
Uh,
And
so yeah,
yeah, does it feel like for you, were you proud of like when you hit that moment like for that first sketchbook that you were releasing, did you feel like a sense of pride? Like was it like a smell the roses, not in an arrogant way, but in just like a to make Gary feel good about himself for like for what you've worked hard for and
sure.
accomplished? Like did you look at it that way?
I think the thing that makes me feel a sense of accomplishment more is if people respond.
Mm,
It's one thing to just print up a book or something and then it just sit there.
right.
But when people respond to it, like, oh man, I like that. I want that. Could you do me a drawing? Or, I have a project. Would you be interested in working on it? That is more rewarding to me because it's like, yeah, other people, like as an artist, um, it isn't just sitting in your room drawing things for yourself. You want to, at least I do, share it with the world, and you want it to be accepted. You want it to be received well by other people, and it's like a connection that we make. One person to another. Like I expressed myself on this paper or canvas, And then a person looked at it and reacted, positively, like, wow, you did that. I think that's the most rewarding thing.
Has art ever been for you a safe place to go, or a
Yeah.
crutch on a bad day or a bad time in life or something like that? Like when you took that 10-year break after you were like, that's it, I'm gonna go do something different. Like there was something missing within you because you, for somebody who draws so much, did you still sketch during that time personally, or did you
Well,
go cold turkey?
I
Or
went and got a job as an artist.
oh,
so, so I worked at an educational company for like 7.5 years.
got it.
I did, I learned a ton about things. I learned about the process of printing and things like that as well. And it was there that like the ideas for Packensland came. Like when I wasn't working, I'd be drawing, And so I mean, I drew at work too, but I learned computers that way. Like computers weren't a thing,
Yeah.
And then they hired me. They said, "Would you be willing to learn how to cut?" They said ruby lith, which I don't, probably nobody knows what that is anymore, but it's the process of where you separate colors um, using a sheet of vellum that's colored red, ruby, and you peel off the ruby part, which is sort of like a fruit roll up,
Hmm.
a texture, rubbery. But then there's the clear part that shows through, and each shape of ruby, you'd say this is going to be blue,
Uh,
this is going to be yellow, this is going to be this, and so it's called color separations. I learned all that,
wow.
and it still works. It translates into the computer world because you can do that there as well. But I learned a ton of stuff. I learned to draw other things other than superheroes
Hmm.
because that's all I wanted to draw, a superhero. I wouldn't draw backgrounds. I've
Mm.
learned to draw backgrounds. So
And I also noticed you had some religious art. You mentioned that you became a Christian, at that time where you were, making a life transition to the new job if you weren't going to go comic. I saw you had a portrayal of Christ on your website. That was like a black and white print or something like that that you had.
yeah, someone asked me to do that for a project that they were having. They said, if you had anything that we could use, we would love it. And I said, sure, I'll do one. So I
Cool.
did it for them, and that's what that was.
Awesome. Yeah, I noticed that there. Now, so now when you got into that computer space a little bit, has that, how do you feel now with the ramped up technology that's out there that's kind of infiltrating the world of art with AI and things of that nature?
Mm.
What's your, as someone who's been grabbing a comic book off the stand at Circle K as a kid, that's how we had to get things, to now where somebody can throw a sentence in and have an image produced within
Right,
moments.
right. Um, it's not my thing, you
Yeah.
know. I have no idea where it's going to go. I just enjoy the process that I do, which is old school. I mean, I do have a tablet that I can draw on,
Hmm.
but mostly I just use that for coloring covers. And if I do an interior page that's color, I'll usually color things that way,
Yeah.
comics. But other than that, I like the real world, using pens and brushes and things like that. And I do that because I love it. And I have tried drawing like digitally and stuff. It's just not as fun to
Yeah.
me. I mean, you can do maybe the same thing and maybe even more. It just doesn't do anything for me. It's like, okay, yeah, I like the journey. I want to take the train. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, and as part of this project, I also, because when I paint very large,
Mhm.
like 6 foot tall paintings, big monster paintings. So I wanted to put myself into your shoes. So I bought a blank thing of sketch cards, and I started trying to create on this sketch card. And this silly little thing has had me kicking my butt for like a week on making mistakes. And my friend asked me what I was doing. I said, I'm making a ton of mistakes trying to create a superhero on this little sketch card and like screwing it up over and over again. And I can paint over paintings and do these things, but there's so little room for error on that little tiny card. So I'm learning a great deal on really what's involved in that. But I love the tangible product to hold in my hand. And that's why I fell in love with the sketch cards that were coming out of that set and now seeking them out through other artists and stuff like that. I think that
Right.
it's important that youth hold the book and hold the item, and not be able to scroll through a page. I think that that makes a big difference. Writing things out, it just
Yeah.
trained us differently, I guess. I'm 43, so I also saw a little bit of transition of digital world, computer world and stuff like
Right.
that. And I'm a carpenter by trade. I'm still, with my hands on the paper, on the pen kind of a guy. So hopefully that sticks around. I hope that some people continue to resonate with that.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. Um, Man. What else did we talk about here? So with the amount that you create, do you have a way of getting a work-life balance? Do you take time that you set aside to get out of is this where you create right now or where you're sitting?
Yes.
So do you force yourself out? Does a timer go off and say, Gary, go outside, go for a walk, or how do you create that work-life balance for yourself?
Well, I guess you could say, fortunately, life is happening. So I have to, I have to go to the store. I have to go. And also it's nice to go out like on the weekend or something with my wife and stuff. And, you know, I do have times where I break away, because there are things that are more important, in life than just drawing. Drawing is wonderful. It's a wonderful part of my life, but there are things that are more important, and it's family and things like that, friends. So it's good to break away. I don't know that I'm the greatest at it, but I do see the importance of it. Yeah,
I see a lot of that sentiment among the artists, especially when you're working in the franchise space and there's deadlines involved for
yeah.
getting some of this product out there. That have you calculated your process in a way, or do you work on one card until it's done and then go to the next one, or have you, mechanicalized at least your technique or stenciling and then inking, or do you just do one and then move on to the next one?
Uh, I've tried different approaches, I'm going to pencil all the cards, and then I'll go back and I'll ink all the cards. That doesn't work as well for me
Mm,
because I get in the moment of like one particular card. It's like, and the energy's there for that card, and I have the, whatever you want to call it, the vision or whatever, to do it. And it's like, just I'm gonna go all the way. I find that I do best that way. It's like, start it and finish it,
yeah.
and then okay, that one's done. Now go to the next one, and then it's like, okay, what am I going to do here? The hardest part of doing anything, I guess, but we'll say with cards, is to not just keep repeating yourself, because it is a small space. And how do you push that? How can we do something a little different? And I'm learning that. I'm trying. It's like, come on, do it different. Do a different angle. Do something else. Come up with another idea. Think of something. And that's where, looking back on all the things that inspired me when I was younger to even get into to art at all, going back and looking at them, it's like, oh yeah, that was great. Try to incorporate that a little bit or whatever. So
Yeah, and
anyway,
you've had such an extensive life of involved in creativity, it sounds like, and your passion at a young age, going with your buddies to the Comic Cons and to those spaces and putting yourself around circles that you're surrounded by artists and in that space. I love that so much. I think that's so cool. What advice could you give, like a little nugget to a young creator who's coming up today, that might encourage them to do the same, follow the same thing, and pursue their dream to create?
I would say probably my advice is something that you shouldn't do, and it's never, never, never give up. That would be it. And
Yeah,
also, second advice: draw all the time. Draw as much as you can, or whatever it is that you're doing. Maybe it's not art at all, or in that sense, maybe it's music, maybe it's something else. Do that thing as much as you can.
I love that. That's so great. Gary, is there anything that you wanted to share? Did we touch on everything? Is there something else you want to contribute to the conversation?
Um, no, I think we covered it
We hit
all.
it, man. Yeah, I mean, we might have
Yeah.
to do a follow-up after issue 10 comes out with Titan. I might want to hop on with you again and just talk about what that experience was like. And I'm gonna go jump on the Kickstarter and
Yeah.
sign up for an issue. Uh,
Here's the page I just finished.
wow. Oh, that is so cool. Yeah, I mean, there's such a strength in your black and white imagery. That's so cool. Wow. Little behind the scenes Titan action there. I like it.
Yeah.
Uh Gary, thank you so much for your time and for sharing your art with the world. And I'm honored to be a collector of yours here, and I look forward to following you on the other platforms. And congratulations on, you're just, I could tell right away, just a real humble, appreciative guy, and that comes out, in you. But your art is just magical, and I'm really glad that a lot of people resonate with it and have access to it. So thank you so much for being the artist that you are.
Well, thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah.